friends? It's Everything Mayor. Back again for another week, another episode. I am your host, Tom Butwin. This is your favorite, I'm telling you it's your favorite John Mayer fan podcast. Perhaps you saw our episode last week, which, if I do say so myself, was a pretty good episode, thanks to you out there doing some sleuth work and potentially discovering who John's next producer is for studio album number 9. But is it studio album number 9? Because if you were paying attention, we got another potential little piece of information that maybe there's a lost studio album out there that may or may not ever see the light of day. But who's to say? We'll see. We got a pretty good source. We've got some video. We'll check it out in just a moment. Before we get to that, as always, if you want to support the show, please subscribe, comment, like. If you really want to support, we've got the super thanks, merch, as well as the join option where you can become a member of the channel and support that way and get additional content, live streams, you name it. It's all there. So before we get to the mysterious and potential, I guess, what would be the 9th album and making the one John's working on now the 10th album. Before we get there, we did get another guitar solo from John Mayer. And this is like, you know, I'm not saying I've been desensitized to this, but we've seen him guesting on a lot of things. And he guested, and we knew it was coming. We talked about this, but the song was finally released. The Alessia Cara song, Isn't It Obvious? So, super cool song. I did want to just briefly and quickly, I'm not even going to pull it up on the screen. I'm literally just going to read it to you. But I thought John Mayer's caption on Instagram about this guitar solo on her song was sort of interesting, as well as the post that goes along with it. So you can go check out the post. But when Alessia, this is John speaking, when Alessia sent me an incredible track she was working on called Isn't It Obvious and asked if I'd be a part of it, I knew it would be fun to play on. What I didn't see coming, however, was how open-minded she'd be when it came to a guitar solo. Guitars on pop songs usually get approached pretty conservatively, but Alessia sat across from me and gave me so much creative freedom that I ended up playing things I never have before. She kept encouraging me to explore further, and the result is a really striking musical moment and an exceptional pop song with a futuristic bent, and that's what it's all about. Give the song a listen and enjoy the videos of what I really sound like when I'm trying to land a new trick, in quotes. Thanks, Alessia, for the push to go further. You're a true artist. So accompanied by some really cool clips. If you're a guitar player, he's throwing a lot of the tap bend, I guess I just feel like kind of thing in there. And it is cool to see him working that out. You can hear him actually say in the clip, he's like, oh, that'd be wild, as he's trying to work it out and get it. And then when you hear the finished product on the record, that's really cool to see the process of someone of Mayer's caliber on an instrument working out what they're going to do and then where it ends up. So and please understand, when if I reference my own musical endeavors, this is not because I consider myself anywhere close to being on a level playing field with someone like John Mayer, because I do not. However, I think it brings somewhat of a unique perspective to this show. For those of you who don't know, I do play guitar and sing. Catch me on my own channel and also on premierguitar.com. But I tend to work all those types of things out alone here. No one's watching me. And what I find incredibly fascinating and impressive on John Mayer's part is the fact that he does that. He has such ability and confidence to do that in front of people, on other people's time, because it costs money to be in a studio. So I'm not used to having to work under that pressure. I'm used to being on my own time. And again, that is not to say that I come up with anything even remotely close to what Mayer does, but just the process of, you know, doing a video or song, whatever the case may be. I find it interesting and very impressive and really cool that, you know, he's working things out in that environment and so successfully also, like eventually arriving at gold, which is super cool. So that is that. Let's see. You know, I think we should just jump right into what we kind of teased at the beginning. And that is Aaron Sterling on the Sarah Evans, yes, the singer, Sarah Evans. She has a podcast on her YouTube channel. as so many of us do these days. I always used to make the joke, everybody has a podcast. I didn't have a podcast at the time, and now I do. I don't think I can make that joke anymore because I'm part of the problem, but you listen and I appreciate it. So Aaron Sterling, John Mayer's, one of his most long-standing drummers, came into the John Mayer world, as we will see, as he describes it, via Born and Raised, and has been around pretty consistently ever since, with the exception of Steve Jordan coming back for a couple of records and a tour. I think just the one tour, maybe 2 tours, can't remember. But Aaron Sterling has become kind of this fixture in the John Mayer world. So he's talking to Sarah Evans, who, like many of us, is a huge fan of Mayer, as well as the record Born and Raised. So rather than talking about it, let's just listen, and I'll stop at the correct points here, and we'll just talk about what Aaron tells us. He reveals something very interesting.
I want to talk about Born and Raised.
Yeah.
I would say it's one of my favorite albums of all time.
I love that album too.
That's a lot to do with everything you did on it.
Well, that's really nice.
I love your drum parts on that record. I mean, it's just...
thank you.
And the way your kit sounds, like, it's just everything about it.
Yeah, that was a special album.
Will you please tell me about making that record as much as you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really, really magical time. Mm-hmm. I met John at Electric Lady, shake hands, and we immediately start playing.
Is that the name of the studio?
Electric Lady Studios in New York, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I have known that? Am I like not cool? Damn it.
You're like, did I just make... Electric Lady...
We're going to cut that out.
Yeah, Electric Lady was a studio made for Jimi Hendrix. And obviously, if I'm wrong, all the people in the comments will be like, that's not technically true.
Okay.
I believe it was made for Jimi Hendrix. He barely got to use it.
No one watches my podcast anyway, so it's fine. Go ahead.
And then
no
he
one watches mine either.
But that was basically the lore of that studio. And it's still one of the best studios in New York. It's pretty much the only studio alive at this point in New York. But yeah, we did it there.
Okay.
Met him. And then like within 5 minutes, we're playing Queen of California, which wasn't a song. It was a riff. He was like... It's like, I don't know what this is.
You are kidding me.
Yeah, it just starts playing that riff. And, it's funny. I'll tell you a fun story. What you hear on Queen of California, the bass and drums, is me just meeting him. We then played that song 150 times over a course of a year. But then he kept going back to something about the drums and the bass when it wasn't a song. He just had a riff, I don't even think he had like a 5-chord. He was just trying to figure out a song. No melody, no lyrics. But he kept going back to wanting to add things to the original thing that had happened when we're just sitting like going, I don't know, what are we doing now?
Because it was magic.
Yeah. And there was an out-of-tune piano that Chuck Leavell from the Stones played on, and that was his solo. And they had tried to like auto-tune that because it was like, and then eventually everybody kept saying, I don't even hear it out of tune. Like, what's the problem?
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. And so little things like that, there's just so many stories like that. But that was a magical record. And we spent essentially a year making that record, just back and forth in New York. Then you go to LA, then you go back to New York, try another studio. And it's just his thing. It's
truly amazing. I mean, and did Don Was produce that?
Yeah, he co-produced that with John. That was their first time working together too. And so we ended up, I think we made 3 or 4. I think there's actually there's a record that Don was a part of with John that's never even come out that we made. So I think 4 records total that they've done together.
Wait a minute. It took a minute to get there, but wait a minute. 4 records that Don Was produced? Let me check Wikipedia, folks, but if I'm not mistaken, you've got most recently Sob Rock. You've got obviously Born and Raised. And then Paradise Valley, right? Paradise Valley, also produced by Don Was, I believe. Yes, co-produced by Don. I'm questioning myself, Aaron. So that makes 3. Paradise Valley, Born and Raised, Sob Rock. They recorded an entire 4th album with Don Was, and we don't have it. Will we ever have it? I don't know. But that means that, potentially we're not looking at the 9th studio album. We're looking at the 10th studio album. It depends on how you count that. And that's very, very interesting. Now, Aaron Sterling goes on to say some other really cool things. He talks more about how he ended up on that session, and it's thanks to Sean Hurley, the bass player from Vertical Horizon, and also has played with John Mayer extensively. He brought Aaron Sterling in, and I would say that's a huge turning point. Maybe only second to bringing in Steve Jordan, Pino Palladino. Those are like those two rhythm sections. And I know there's been mixing and matching there. Pino has played with Aaron, and I think Sean has played with Steve Jordan. I think there's been some crossover like that. It's not always Pino and Steve and Aaron and Sean, but those two, we'll call them two rhythm section teams, have really been pivotal in Mayer's career. Continuum is really it's a solo record, but it's almost a trio record, John Mayer trio record, which is Pino and Steve Jordan. When you get to the Born and Raised thing, you've got Sean Hurley and Aaron Sterling, who are this new rhythm section unit who come in and really change the scope of what Mayer is doing, or Mayer changes the scope of what he's doing. And that's the podcast is worth a watch. If I'm I am by no means in a position to critique anybody hosting their show, because most of the time I'm talking to myself. But I do wish Aaron had talked more. What we just listened to there, just a little bit after that, where he talks about some of Mayer's songwriting process and that sort of thing, is about the most that he talks. There are bits and pieces, but I wish I had heard more from him, if I'm being honest. But it's still worth a listen. But that's the big news, is that there is this potential secret unreleased. Well, there is. I mean, Aaron Sterling says there is. He played on it. So, and what I find interesting is that it's actually, he's categorizing it as an entire fourth record. He's not really pointing it out as like, oh yeah, we recorded 35 songs for Born and Raised, but we only put the 12 or whatever it is, on the record, and there's all these leftover songs. He's describing it as an entire other record, which to me says that that's how Mayer approached it. That's how Don Was approached it. So I don't know. That's very interesting. And I wonder, is that the album that was scrapped before Sob Rock? Where was that? When was that? Because it doesn't. At first, when I first listened to this, I was thinking, just for some reason, I defaulted to, Paradise Valley, Born and Raised, and this mystery record were all done around the same time. Not necessarily. Now that I'm thinking back to it, I think it's probably closer to Sob Rock, timeline wise. So, and we got Sob Rock after the other one was abandoned, I guess. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Did you guys know this? Because I didn't know this. To me, this is big news. But maybe it's not news to you. And maybe I'm breaking no sorts of news to you. But either way, I love hearing Aaron Sterling talk. He had a podcast himself a long time ago, and it was just a joy to listen to, and I wish he'd bring it back, because he's very entertaining. He's not only is one of my favorite drummers, not only on the John Mayer stuff, but I mean, he's played on everything. Shawn Mendes, Harry Styles, Sabrina Carpenter, I think he's played on Sarah Evans. Yeah, he's played on Sarah Evans' stuff. I mean, like the list goes on and on. Post Malone. I mean, he's played on everyone's stuff. Particularly after the Mayer thing kind of brought him into more prominence. I would think that had something to do with it. But I'm always fascinated. I'd be fascinated to talk to him someday. Even on this show. So Aaron, you're always welcome if you want to come on. But so let me know, is that news to you? Is it news to you? And here's the other ultimate question. Here's the ultimate question to close this portion out. Would you want that record to come out? And I ask this because you know that it was made and it was shelved. Would you rather hear that record or the new thing he's making now? If you had to choose between the two. Now, I guess the scenario could exist where both of them eventually come out. But if you had to pick between the two, record that was abandoned with Don Was, that Aaron Sterling played on, I'm guessing Sean Hurley was on it as well, Or would you rather the new record, which we predicted might be poppier based on the potential producer from last week? You tell me. I'm interested. I'm interested to know your thoughts on that. Me personally, I would be more excited to... Well, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think I'm still a little bit scarred from the Dave Matthews Band Busted Stuff / Lily White Sessions debacle in the early 2000s, if you know about that. So maybe that's why I'm gravitating towards the new. Well, I'm picking the new record, like the new one that he's working on right now, as opposed to the one that was left behind. If I had to pick between the two, ultimately though, I want to hear both. Obviously, we all want to hear both. So that's that, and that applause tells you one thing, and that one thing is that we're at the After Dinner Mint, which, if you've never been here before, is when we let our hair down and we don't care so much about the YouTube algorithm, and more importantly, we just hang out. And I speak to those of you who are still listening at this point, because I can only assume that you are a big fan of John Mayer and hopefully a fan of the show if you're still listening at this point. And we just talk and we just hang out and enjoy ourselves. And last week in the After Dinner Mint, I asked if someone or anyone or any of you, multiple people, would post about this show in the John Mayer Reddit, and I know I saw at least 1 or 2 posts about it. So thank you very much for that. It's hugely helpful. Last week's episode was actually very successful, and when it is shared by a third party such as you, that helps immensely with the success or failure of these videos on YouTube. So thank you very much to those of you who commented on that post, as well as who posted it. So thank you very much on that. I will apologize to all of you, and particularly to the members. I'm trying to get a better cadence for this show. We've got a lot of things on the plate to take care of. We still have the giveaway. We still got to get on a regular schedule for the live streams for members. And if you want to be a part of those live streams, please join as a Born and Raised Again or level member. But I'm working on it. You had a meeting last week about some of the future projects and future direction of the show. It's coming. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of, we'll say, moving pieces in the background of what's happening here. And I'm hopeful that what I think is going to happen will still happen. But if I'm being completely honest, it's a lot of it falls on me, and I'm only one person, so I can only do so much. But I'm having fun doing this show in this format, so I will be continuing to do that, of course. I just want to make it as good as it can possibly be, and there are a few things, as I've said before, that have to happen for that to be possible. Some of which are out of my control, some of which are in my control, and I'm doing everything I can to influence all those things, even the things I can't control. But the one I really can't control is when Mayer drops a new record or goes out on tour, because that would really be, as far as material to talk about, would make the show that much easier to plan for. But so yeah, if you want to be a part of the community, suggest episode topics, be a part of the live streams, check out unreleased content. Feel free to support in the join section. And I feel like, what else is there to say? I mean, we found out that there's a potential secret unreleased record. Is Sterling getting phone calls from Mayer saying, like, why did you say that, dude? Or was this already something that's out there? Because I do remember hearing, and he actually might have said himself, actually, I think that there was an album that was abandoned before Sob Rock. So I guess it's probably not that big of a secret. But it's kind of cool to hear the perspective and hear it straight from somebody who is involved in the process of making the show. I'm making the show. They were making the record. That's what happens when you cue the theme song while you're trying to end the show. Again, I'm only one person, These podcasts have teams of like 15 people, and I have a team of one, essentially. And then there's all of you who make it possible, and I sincerely appreciate it. And look forward to speaking with you again next week. I was excited to get this one out. And hopefully it was entertaining. And go check out that Sarah Evans podcast with Aaron Sterling. It's worth a listen. We'll catch you next time.